It's 10 minutes to 9 p.m. Central African time here on Salam Media. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair for joining us here this evening. We have 10 minutes left together. And as you know, we wrap up the show every week looking at the positive side of local governance and service delivery and people and organizations who are making a change in their city. And this week is no different. This evening, we're joined by Lamprecht. He is one of Johannesburg's most notable project leaders focusing on child protection, child development, and just overall empowering young men as well. He runs a project called Fight with Flight. This is in the inner city of Johannesburg that uses boxing and life skills to work with people. Luke, thank you very much for your time this evening here on Salam Media. We really appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure to join you. Thank you.
Luke, the important question, I think, is how important is projects and organizations such as yourself with Fight with Insight important to keep vulnerable youth out of danger and ensuring that even though there may be a lack of service delivery with regards to sports, there still is an organization such as yourself?
Well, I think the first thing to think about is that there's a lack of programs for boy children in general. So what happens is that when boy children sort of become teenagers and they have sort of a lack of male role models in the city, they tend to be drawn towards places of belonging like gangs and places of becoming like gangsters. So what we try and do is we try and say, we know the need to become and belong are things that are completely inherent in kind of human nature. But your environment determines how you become and where you belong. So we try and provide an alternative where we believe that if young men's, but we also work with women, obviously, but if young men's need to belong is not met, they will join a gang or they will be completely isolated and they'll end up in the internet following kind of the likes of Andrew Tate. And if that need is distorted, they'll belong to a gang. So we try to meet that need to belong within the boxing gym and allow them to become within a group of pro-social men. So it's, for me, it's almost a biological imperative. So in other words, it's something that if you don't have it, you don't survive. It's not a want. It's a biological need.
Mm-hmm. In terms of local government, is there anything that local government or even perhaps national government should be doing to perhaps empower organizations such as yourself, or I guess in the greater scheme of things, ensure that these children are taken care of by government and then perhaps supplemented by organizations such as yourself?
Look, I think it's essential. I mean, when I did a talk to 1,500 teenagers in a public school yesterday. And when I ask them, do they spend too much time online, and they put their hands up and they say, yes, they do, by their own admission, makes me sad because it means that we have given them a world they don't want to live in. So that just talks about the city that we live in, where children can't be like my childhood, out on the streets playing, driving up and down, going into their neighbors' houses, just like a childhood where the vocation and the language of childhood is play. So if we can create safety for children to begin with, that would be the first thing. That would be an external safety. You are safe to play in the park across the road from me because there's not all the drug dealers and the sex workers and whatever it is that work across the road from me. They're not there. The families occupy that space. So local government can provide a safe city so that children can have a city in which to play. That would be the first thing. And then the second thing would be that if children find themselves in some kind of trouble, so they got into trouble at school, or they are suicidal, or they are struggling with their sense of belonging in the world, that they support organizations in the local city that give those children that sense that there's somewhere to go that is not only safe, which hopefully the whole city is, but where people can nurture them. And there's a quote from a book which is called Girls on the Edge, that says that every child needs two non-parental adult figures if they're going to be successful one day. And I know in my life, I had two teachers who were like that. So it can be schools, it can be sport, it can be a variety of things. But it's a need for safe people, safe places, and internal safety for children.
From a government point of view as well, should there be investment in organizations, in, well, not fight clubs rather, but gyms which empower young boys, give them a sense of belonging? To what extent is there investment and collaboration with the government from the boxing club that you run, but I guess across other NPOs which you probably engage with across your different networking events?
Look, the biggest challenge with government funding is that it's reactive. So if you provide a service for something where children are already hurt, there's lots of funding because the children are hurt and there's mandatory reporting and there's laws, etc. I don't think there is anywhere near enough investment in the places that allow people to prevent the things that we need to respond to. And what I think government doesn't recognize is that if you need to react to something that has already happened, it takes 50 times the resources to create in a place where children don't get themselves into trouble, or if we recognize they are in emotional trouble before they're in physical trouble, like they've committed a crime or tried to kill themselves, etc. The investment, the repayment on investment is way higher. Whereas if you need to react to events that have already occurred, the cost is much, much, much higher. So exponentially, they should be investing in preventing the problems happening. And obviously, if something has happened, to invest in that so it doesn't reoccur. We call it the war cycle or the world of abnormal rearing. So you don't have the same people looping in and out of the system. I mean, prisons are a prime example. You put someone in jail because they did something wrong, you provide no services, you release them, they offend again, they go back to jail. We want to prevent that in children.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're looking at, the deficiencies within local government, within local governance, perhaps the private investment going into those as well. But the work that you're doing also involves a massive positive impact on children within the city. I'm sure you have a few success stories that you can maybe share with us.
The beauty is that success for me is that most of these children are allowed to unlock the potential that is buried in poverty. Poverty just buries potential. So if you give people a place to become and you allow them to be okay enough with who they are now while they're working out who they are going to become, you have these extraordinary young people who emerge from it. But the thing is that it is what needs to be understood is it's I don't want to use cliches like a deep dive or whatever, but the reality is it's more, to use a Joburg metaphor, it's more mining than farming. You work very long and very deep with a smaller group rather than trying to spread your resources in a million directions. So the majority of the young people who are leading the on of an ordinary life or who are SA champions who are my fighters who are fighting in Japan at the moment as professionals, they're all success stories. But my day-to-day success stories are the people who get through education, they get a job, they look after their family well, they plan their pregnancies, they come back to the gym, and they've been with me for 12 years, and they reinvest in their community where they still live.
Look, that sounds absolutely amazing. The fact that there are challenges in different parts of Johannesburg, and you seem to be solving some of those problems. And I'm sure continuing going forward, there's going to be lots more success for you and the rest of the NPOs who are within your networks.
Thank you so much. It's very kind for you to give me the time for the interview. Have a good evening.
Luke, thanks very much for your time. And we are just takes us to about 30 seconds to 9 p.m. Central African time here on Salam Media. And that wraps up the show this evening, Local Matters with myself, Ahmed Kaji. If you happen to miss any of our interviews this evening or any of the conversations, you can head over to our social media pages on Facebook, on X, it's Salam Media. Alternatively, our website, salammedia.com. You will see all of the information and additional articles from the Salam Media page and content which you may have missed over the last few hours. At any point in time, if you would like to get in touch with me, you can. Please feel free to do so on X. I'm on at Ahmed Kaji, the spelling exactly on your screen that you will have right now. We are looking forward to having you again next week, again from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central African time here on Salam Media. But until next week, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.